I promise I'm back. Good evening once again. Welcome to today's tutorial where we are going to be looking at what we call the functional classification of neurons. But please, if you have not yet subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. You turn on the notification bell so that whenever I load a video, you become the very first one to watch, okay? So let's get started and look about what we call the functional classification of neurons, okay? Previously, we talked about the structural classification of neurons, where we looked about the bipolar, the multipolar, and then pseudo-unipolar. We looked at all that. If you have not yet watched it, please look for it and watch it so that you are in line with the structural classification. Today we are focusing on functional classification of neurons, and mainly we have three functional classification of neurons. Okay, the first one is what we call the sensory neurons, the second is what we call the motor neurons, and the third one is what we call the interneurons. We want to see, want to classify these neurons by the function which they do, okay? And there are going to be some other basic terms. There are going to be some other basic terminologies we are going to be generating here during this study of what we call functional classification of neurons, okay? So let's get started, okay? Now, looking at what we call the sensory neurons. What do sensory neurons do? The sensory neurons, they are responsible for picking the sensations from the peripherals and feed it into the central nervous system. That is it. That's their role, okay? And when we talk about the motor neurons, motor means more of movement, okay? They are going to be carrying the command, okay? Or the information that's going to be stimulating or making a command of different parts of the body, okay? They are more of carrying the command from the central nervous system to the far effectors, okay? And then when we talk about the interneurons, these are going to be connecting the motor and then the sensory neurons, as simple as that, okay? So now during this study, we're going to be generating some of the common and very specific terminologies that are going to be helping us during the study of the neurosciences, okay? Now, I want to see how do we call some of those sensory neuron fibers that are going to be carrying the sensations from the heart, from the GIT, from the lungs, from the urogenital system, and generally all the visceral organs. We want to see how do we call such kind of fibers that are going to be sensory and are going to be bringing the sensations from these visceral organs and feed it to the central nervous system. This one here is going to be our central nervous system, because we're going to be having the spinal cord, and then we have what we call the brain. So we want to see what are these fibers that are going to be carrying the sensation from the heart, GIT, the lungs, and generally all other visceral organs. The fact that sensory neurons, they are taking the information to the central nervous system. They are more of accessing the central nervous system. For that reason, the sensory neurons, they are going also to be they are going to be what we call afferent. Okay, they are going to be what we call afferent. And because the motor neurons, they are taking the information away from the central nervous system, it means the information is exiting. We say it is efferent. Okay, it is efferent. These terms are going to be very important in generation of these terminologies which I'm about to generate. Okay, sensory information is afferent to the central nervous system, and then motor neurons, they are going to be taking the information from the central nervous system away into the effectors. Therefore, that reason they are going to be efferent pathway. Okay. Now, how do we call these fibers that are going to be taking the sensation from the visceral organs? These fibers are going to be called they are going to be what we call the general, but because they are going to be taking them from the visceral organs, they are going to be general, visceral, and going to be afferent. Okay, I'm going to be calling them the general, visceral, afferent neuron fibers. Okay, so now we shall use these terms later in other videos. Okay, so let's look about what we call, how do we call those kind of the sensory fibers that are going to be picking the sensations from the skin and then locomotor system and feed it into the central nervous system. How do we call these fibers? When we talk of the locomotor system, these are going to be the body structures that are going to be aiding in the movement. Okay, for example, the skeletal muscles, the joints, the ligaments, those structures are going to be aiding in movement. So when we talk of the locomotor system, we want to see those sensations. The fibers are going to be carrying all those sensations to the central nervous system. And at the back of your mind, what you should know is that they are going to be more of somatic. Okay, they are going to be more of somatic. So the fact that they are going to be now going into the central nervous system, they are going to be what we call general somatic afferent. Okay, they're going to be general somatic afferent, carrying the sensation from the skin, skeletal muscles, joints, ligament, and feeding into the central nervous system. It's such a beautiful thing. So now coming again to other special sensory organs, we have what we call the ears and the eyes. So we want to see what such kind of sensory fibers, which are going to be picking the sensations from these special sense organs and feed it into the central nervous system. So now how do we call it? We call them, these fibers are what we call, they are going to be special. But of course, if they are special, they are going to be sensory, and they are going to be more afferent to the central nervous system. Okay, so they are going to be special sensory afferent neuron fibers. It's such a beautiful thing. Okay, now again, looking at what we call some of those sensory fibers that are going to be picking information from the roof of the nasal cavity. That's generally around the what we call the olfactory epithelium, and then also on the tongue, taking the sensation of taste. These ones, they are also going to be slightly a bit special, but they are going to be more of visceral. Okay, they are going to be more of visceral. So now, for that reason, we are going to be calling them special visceral afferent neuron fibers. Okay, it's such a beautiful thing. So it's going to be taking these fibers, these neuron fibers are going to be taking the sensations of taste and smell into the central nervous system. So these fibers, or these neuron fibers, are going to be special visceral afferent. That is the little information about the sensory neurons for the case of functional classification. Looking about what we call the motor neuron. We have said that these motor neurons, they're going to be carrying the information from the central nervous system to the far effectors. For that reason, they are going to be more of efferent. Efferent, E means exit. And that's just a reminder, okay? So now, if you are carrying the information from the central nervous system to these visceral organs, the likes of the lungs, the glands, the heart, the GIT, you realize that these kind of fibers, they are going to be autonomic. Okay, we do not have control over these kind of visceral organs. They are automated. Okay, in other words, these fibers are going to be autonomic, containing what we call the sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. But of course, they are going to be now general. They are going to be general. These fibers are going to be general, but of course, they are going to be visceral. And because the information is exiting, they're going to be general, visceral, efferent fibers, or what we call motor fibers. Okay, it is such a beautiful thing. Okay, so now having looked at now the general visceral efferent fibers going to those visceral organs, let's now quickly look at what we call the pharyngeal arches. What are pharyngeal arches? Pharyngeal arches, these are going to be more of the bulbous structures, which are going to be located in what we call the primitive areas during embryological development. You know, during embryological development of the head and the neck, we have what we call the pharyngeal arches, and these structures, they are going to be most especially seen towards around the 4th and then the 5th week of embryological development. What are these pharyngeal arches generally? These pharyngeal arches, they are going to be containing the muscles, they're going to be containing a special nerve, they're going to be containing what we call the cartilages, and then also an artery. Okay, it's going to be a very good structure which is going to be containing all those structures. But now, we have specific motor fibers that are going to be coming from the central nervous system, and they go and supply the different pharyngeal arches. We have a variety of the pharyngeal arches. We have pharyngeal arches number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then number 6. Number 5, that one does not exist because it disappears in the process. Okay, so now we want to see what are those kind of the cranial nerves that are going to be supplying these different pharyngeal arches. But we have said that a pharyngeal arch is going to be containing muscles, it's going to be containing the cartilage, going to be containing an artery, and then it's going to be containing a special nerve supply. So now these are going to be the components of what we call the pharyngeal arch. Now, for example, pharyngeal arch number 1 is going to be containing muscles like the muscles of mastication, and there are very many muscles that are going to be containing what we call the first pharyngeal arch. Now, want to see which cranial nerve is going to be supplying the first pharyngeal arch. It is going to be cranial nerve number 5, and particularly it's going to be the V2 and then the V3, the maxillary and the mandibular branch of cranial nerve number 5, which is trigeminal nerve. Okay. Then for the case of pharyngeal arch number 2, this one is going to be supplied by what we call the seventh cranial nerve, and that's going to be the facial nerve. Okay. And then the third pharyngeal arch is going to be supplied by cranial nerve number 9, which is what we call the glossopharyngeal nerve. And then pharyngeal arch number 4 and then number 6, these ones are going to be supplied by this big man whom we call cranial nerve number 10, and is what we call the vagus nerve. So now, how do we call these fibers that are going to be moving to supply all these kind of pharyngeal arch? And these pharyngeal arches, they are going to be supplied by a very special cranial nerve. If it is pharyngeal arch number 1, we only expect the trigeminal nerve V2 and then V3 to be in that kind of pharyngeal arch. You know, some of these structures in the pharyngeal arch, they are going to be migratory. They can move to far areas. And of course, that kind of the cranial nerve which is assigned for that kind of pharyngeal arch, you will have to move along with that structure until where it ends. It's such a beautiful thing, okay? So now, these kind of fibers that are going to be supplying these kind of different pharyngeal arch, they are going to be more of what we call spatial, okay? Spatial, but because they are more of visceral, okay? They're going to be more of visceral and then having efferent fibers. So they're going to be spatial, visceral, efferent fibers. It's such a beautiful thing, okay? Then coming again to the last one, which is going to be the skeletal muscles. Now, skeletal muscles now is going to be more of somatic. Okay, it's going to be more of somatic. So now those kind of the motor fibers that are going to be coming off from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle, it is going to be more of somatic. And they are going to be what we call general somatic efferent fibers. Okay, so now these are going to be the general somatic efferent neuron fibers going to innervate different skeletal muscles to aid in what we call movement. What you should know is that the motor neuron, they're going to be carrying the information from the central nervous system to the different body structures, giving them a command on what you're going to be, on what's supposed to do, okay? Looking at what we call the interneurons. And we have said that the interneurons, they're going to be more of what we call connecting the sensory and then the motor neurons together, okay? They're going to be more of what we call a circuit, completing what we call a circuit. Okay, a neural circuit. Now, for example, I will have what we call a simple reflex arc, whereby if you touch a hot or a piercing object, you withdraw the hand immediately. Okay, so now looking at this hand, we have tried to bring in a sharp nail to pierce that skin. Okay, now when it pierces that skin, we have what we call the sensory fibers. The sensory fibers, they're going to pick that kind of the sensation and bring it to the dorsal horn, okay, the dorsal horn of what we call the spinal horn. Now, these sensations are going to be carried through what we call the sensory neurons. Of course, this is going to be now more of the pseudo-unipolar neuron. It's going to enter through the posterior horn. Then it's going to be synapsing. You know, this kind of this red neuron. This is what we call the interneuron. It is connecting the sensory neuron and then to the motor neuron. And of course, this motor neuron is going to be carrying now the instruction to come and cause these skeletal muscles of the hand to contract and pull away the hand. Okay, you have seen now the angle is trying to move away. Here it was a bit straight, but because of now that kind of reflex, there's going to be contraction of the skeletal muscles, making this hand to withdraw off a painful structure. So now, in a simple reflex arc, we need what we call the interneurons, okay? And of course, these interneurons, they're going to be located in some other areas, like for example, the thalamus. The thalamus contains some more of what we call the interneurons, because the thalamus is also what we call the release station, okay? It's going to be diverting information to different areas, or what we call the different areas of the brain, what we call the cerebral cortex, okay? So now the typical example of the interneuron is going to be playing a very big role in what we call a simple reflex arc. It is such a beautiful thing that is helping us to withdraw from dangerous situations, before we get extensive damage without involvement of what we call the brain. You know, the simple reflex arc does not involve the brain, because if we wait for the brain to get involved, by the time the brain gets involved, the nail has severely pierced you and has even bypassed you. Okay, that's why the spinal cord does it very fast, such that by the time the brain comes in, you have already withdrawn the hand, and you're just looking at what we call what has just pierced you. It's such a very cool and beautiful thing. Okay, so now these are this little information you need to know about the functional classification of neurons. We have said that we have what we call the sensory neurons, which are also called the afferent, and then the motor neurons, which are going to be the efferent. We have said that the sensation from the heart, the GIT, the lungs are going to be taken to the central nervous system by what we call the general visceral afferent fibers, and then from the skin and then the locomotor system, they're going to be taken to the central nervous system by what we call the general somatic afferent fibers, and then from the special sense organs like the ears and the eye, they're going to be taken to the central nervous system by what we call the special sensory afferent fibers, and then for the case of the sensation of taste and then smell, it's going to be what we call the special visceral afferent fibers, and then we have said that the motor neurons of the central nervous system to the effectors. So now these kind of fibers that are going to be picking the information from the central nervous system to the lungs, to the gland, to the heart, to the GIT, they are going to be what we call the general visceral efferent fibers. And again, we have said that for the case of pharyngeal arches, we have a variety of them. Pharyngeal arch 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. We have special cranial nerves that are going to be supplying individual pharyngeal arch. And we have called those fibers as what we call special visceral efferent fibers. And finally, we talked about what we call the skeletal muscles having what we call the general somatic efferent fibers. We went ahead and talked about the interneurons, that the interneurons are going to be connecting the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. For example, we talked about what we call the simple reflex arc, whereby if you have anything piercing you, or when you step on a hot substance, you withdraw immediately. So now if you bring this nail on this hand, the sensation are going to be picked by these sensory neurons into the posterior aspect of the spinal cord, whereby that information is going to be synapsing with this interneuron, and then the interneuron also commands the motor neuron to come and cause the contraction of the skeletal muscles, leading into withdrawal of the hand. Okay, it's such a beautiful thing that helps us to control ourselves from extensive damage by dangerous substances like the nails and the hot substances and other substances that can cause injuries to our bodies. It has been a very cool tutorial to study about the functional classification of the neurons. If you think whatever I've talked is making sense, is adding to you, you are benefiting, please, you like the video, comment in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe at the end of it all. Thank you very much for watching. As always, TUMNAD, until we meet next time.